Hi, my name is James Cook. I'm an associate professor of sociology at the University of Maine at Augusta, and I'm recording this video to show you how to gather information on income inequality for any town of anything more than the smallest size in the United States. So I'm going to be talking through an assignment that I'm asking my students to engage in, but of course you can follow along and do this no matter who you are, thanks to the availability of public information for the United States through the website data.census.gov. Now this is an assignment that I've asked students to participate in, and for this moment in which I'm recording, the fall of 2022, the last 5-year period of data that's available is for 2020. That's going to change as time moves on. Why do we want 5 years of data? Because it's important when you're working with data from the census, which we're going to work with, the American Community Survey. It's important to get a large enough sample size to have information that is reliable, even for a small place. So the idea of working with 5 years of data is that even in a very small town, over 5 years, enough people have been surveyed to characterize the income inequality of that place, whereas just 1 year of data isn't quite enough. What we're going to do is we're going to look at shares of income by quintile. Those shares are going to be percentages across all 5 quintiles, adding up to 100%. And then we're going to look at mean income of quintiles. Remember, a mean is an average, and also a quintile is an ordered fifth. So fifths of the population ordered according to their income. How much does the top quintile get? How much does the medium quintile get? How much does the bottom quintile get? Let's find out. I'm going to walk you through the process, which is quite easy, by heading over to data.census.gov. Let's take a look. If I type in data.census.gov, I will be taken to this website. And on this web page, asking us to explore census data, we'll have a search bar, and I can type in one of those two terms, mean income by quintile or shares of income by quintile. And look, there it pops up for us, one table of data. I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to be taken to a complicated looking page, but there's a lot of information that we can work with. Now notice there for 2021, here in the fall of 2022, we do have 1 year estimates. However, since we want to be able to look at really small towns in the United States, we're going to gather 5 years together. And as you can see from the American Community Survey carried out by the US Census Bureau, the 5-year estimates all gathered together only go up to 2020 at this point in time. Of course, that'll change. So underneath the title of the table here, we're going to select in the drop-down menu 5-year estimates. Now, you'll notice then that we have an estimate here in this column that I'm highlighting. And you'll notice that a quintile, right, it refers to 5, but there are 6 rows. That's because the top 5% is part of the top 20%, which is the highest quintile. So what are we going to do? We're going to ignore the top 5%. And we're going to pay attention to these other quintiles from the lowest to the highest. Not surprisingly, the highest quintile, that is the people who earn the most income, have the highest share. But what's interesting to look at is the difference from what would happen under conditions of perfect equality, which would be 20% to each quintile, right? Because 20 times 5 is 100%. And to notice that we have a deviation from this in the United States overall. But I'm not asking for information for the United States. I'm asking for information for a particular town. And maybe you're looking for information for your town. So to get information for a particular town, let's head over to this button here called Geos. I'm going to click there. And then I'm going to look at place. Now, place is an intuitive location to look on this website. And let's take a look within Maine and see what kind of places we can get here. We can get loads of small towns. Calais, I know in France it would be called Calais, but in Maine it's called Calais, is a relatively small town. Cape Connecticut is small, Damariscotta is small. There's a load of these places. But, you know, we could look at a different place altogether. So one place we might look would be in Idaho. And you'll notice the places here are organized according to alphabetical order. So I could look at Coeur d'Alene, a place up in the panhandle of Idaho. And that's just my selection, almost arbitrarily. You can do this for almost any town in the United States. And you'll notice that now I have information for both United States and Coeur d'Alene, right? So there's a scroll bar down at the bottom, and I can scroll back and forth. But more than that, I can click a button called Excel, and when I do, you will see I've downloaded actually a file that's in an XLSX format. Now you can open that up in Microsoft Excel. You can also open that up in the free Google Drive document format, Google Sheets. So if you go to drive.google.com, which is free to anyone with a Google account, you could open it there as well. I'm going to click to open this in Microsoft Excel, and let's wait for it. And you'll see that there's a tab for information, which is a description of what you're going to be looking at. And then you'll find you have here for the United States and Coeur d'Alene, you have information on the quintiles that are available. Now, what's interesting to me looking at this is that if we take a look, say, at the highest quintile in the United States overall, the highest quintile, the highest earning 20% in the United States gets 51.57% of the income, whereas in Coeur d'Alene, the highest quintile only gets 47.14%. What does that mean? Well, you can interpret that by thinking about that a little bit, but it means that less of the income goes right up to the top. And where does it get distributed? It gets sort of distributed across the other 4 quintiles, each of which, for Coeur d'Alene compared to the United States, is actually a little bit higher. So we could say that in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, there is slightly less income inequality than in the United States. Now, let's head back to that data.census.gov, excuse me, web page, and let's clear out the table here by heading right back to the beginning. We can clear the search and the filters here. So you see that in the upper left. I'll do so, and I'll clear. And now I'm going to head right back to the beginning by clicking the United States Census Bureau icon. Notice I'm right back at the beginning. And now I can type mean income. I could type by quintile. I could type in quintile as well as a keyword. And here we have mean household income of quintiles. It's another table. It's also providing it for the United States. I would like it to be 5-year estimates. So just as before, underneath this title, mean household income of quintiles, I'm going to use that drop-down menu to select 5 years. And then I'm going to go again to geos, and I'm going to head over to place, and I'm going to head over to Idaho, and I'm going to head over to Coeur d'Alene. Okay. Then I'm going to X out of this selection window so I can see the results. And would you take a look? I have estimates for Coeur d'Alene on the right and the United States on the left. I can again click Excel, and right here, depending on your browser, it may occur at the bottom with your downloads, it may occur up top. That's specific to your browser. I'm using Google Chrome as a browser, so results may vary. That's up to you and knowing your browser, but I will click that download, which should also be available if you're using a Windows machine in the Downloads folder. And we'll see again, there are two tabs at the bottom, Information and Data. So if we take a look at the data here, what's interesting to me, right, is that the mean, the average of the income earned in each quintile is also really different between the United States and Coeur d'Alene. So if we take a look at the highest quintile, boy, how can you get less income inequality? That is more income equality. One way to really do that is to have less income for folks on the top. Look at the difference here. On average, the highest 20% earned $236,069 in the 5 years ending in 2020 in the United States. But that is only, and I say only, knowing that that's a pretty advantageous place to be regardless. But the average for the top 20% in Coeur d'Alene is about a little bit more than $70,000 less. Whereas for the lowest quintile, everybody's doing really badly in the United States overall, on average $14,364. In Coeur d'Alene, sure, it's still less, but by a smaller amount, $12,747. So what does that allow me to say about Coeur d'Alene compared to the United States? It says there's less income inequality going on. That is, it's more evenly dispersed, but that's because people don't get as high in their incomes in Coeur d'Alene compared to the United States. And this is true for all quintiles, but the gap becomes smaller as you move toward the bottom. And so that leads to less income inequality. Now, I leave it up to you to think about how does that affect the way a person living in Coeur d'Alene experiences the world according to income inequality. What does life look like in the town? I encourage you to think inventively about that. But the technique of getting information about quintiles, that's pretty darned up to date. And that you can do not just for Coeur d'Alene, but almost any town in the United States is actually quite impressive. Now, let's say you pick a place like the Forks in Maine. If you've ever lived or been to, I'm going to click here and deselect Coeur d'Alene. If you've ever been to or lived in really northern Maine, you might have been to the Forks, and you know it's pretty much like a fork in the road. Not many people live up there. And so if I go to place, and I'm still looking at 5 years of data, am I going to be able to find that for Maine? It is literally, it's not called Forks, it's called the Forks. So I'm going to take a look. No, it is not available. And that's simply because it is too small. So what could one do instead? For geos, we could, let's hit that back arrow because we've been looking at places within Maine. We could look at counties within Maine. And when I click county, let's do that, you'll see I'll be able to take a look at the state of Maine again. But it's not going to provide me all these towns, it's going to provide the counties. So when you have that situation going on, we have 16 counties in the state of Maine. You will have to simply look at a much larger level, but still that information is available. So say for Franklin County, just for example. Now you see we have information on the mean household income of quintiles for both United States and Franklin County, Maine. We can also download that using the Excel button.